everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, Em and Jay, and today we're looking at issue 13 of Captain Marvel 2019. This issue picks up where the last one left off after she seemingly killed Thor. So we're 13 issues into this series, and honestly, nothing makes sense. I think the major problem is that there's no setup for anything. At the end of the previous arc, we saw Star escaping the raft, and we just assumed she would be a major character in the book going forward, but it turns out she just flew off to be in her own book. So this new arc seems to have nothing to do with her, and as far as we know, Captain Marvel has no idea what happened to Star. Wouldn't she be concerned about the supervillain she just put away escaping almost immediately? And wouldn't the raft contact the Avengers if there was an escapee? But no, apparently not. And her having the Reality Stone totally came out of left field. It wasn't something that was set up and then was revealed to be a clever twist. It just totally came out of nowhere. What did Ripley do to deserve the Reality Stone? Now we're doing this thing where she's killing all the Avengers, thanks to this Vox Supreme character, who we thought was new to this book, but some comments on our previous video let us know he's actually an Inhumans character, so thanks for the heads up. Honestly, he sounds just as boring in that book as he does here, but onto the actual comic. I like the cover well enough. It looks like Carol's in a fight, and her helmet was blasted or punched, and it reveals her face. I think the art's really good, and I like the expression. It would have been nice to see a little more context to this battle instead of just a close-up of her face, like maybe showing her fighting Iron Man like she is in the comic book, but I think it's fine for what it is. The comic opens with Tony brushing his teeth, only for Carol to crash through his house. I'm not sure how she knew he was in the bathroom specifically, but it's dramatic. Tony's able to get his suit on and recognize that it's Carol, so of course he tries to talk her out of this, but Carol thinks about how she's going to beat him by using his affection for her against him. Having Carol fight all the Avengers to the death is dramatic and gets a lot of attention with these headlines, but a problem with this book is that we haven't seen Carol and Tony have a very good relationship, at least from what we've read. Carol thinks about how they're close and they do care about each other even if they give each other a hard time, but from what we've seen, Carol tends to go behind Tony's back a lot, take his stuff without asking, and leave him with the cleanup, while Tony has actually been very supportive of her. He tries to give her good advice, and he worries about her. I just feel like we haven't seen that affection she's talking about, at least not from her, so it ends up making this fight feel kind of hollow, even though it's supposed to be really dramatic, not to mention all the stuff that happened in Civil War 2, but I guess we're supposed to pretend that didn't happen, since this comic insists on sweeping all that under the rug. Tony blasts her with his photon beams, but she absorbs the energy and blasts it back at him, taking the fight into space. Carol brags to Tony about how she already killed a god today. I don't believe that for a second, and that he's just a guy in a suit. Tony tries to call more suits, but she tears his suit off of him and throws him into space. It's then revealed that she threw him into Singularity, so Star flew off to be in her own book, but Singularity is just here now? Well, I guess it's convenient. They don't do anything to introduce her to the readers. She's just here, much like everything else in this book. Basically, she's living space, and there's a pocket dimension inside of her. She doesn't have much of a backstory. She was just kind of created when the multiverse collapsed. Now she's here. She's also not really a character in this book. She's just here to be a pocket dimension. Inside Singularity's pocket dimension, Carol finally explains herself to Tony in a non-decapitated Thor. Vox Supreme is monitoring Carol through her suit, but for some reason he can't see into Singularity, so they're safe from him there for now. She then goes on to explain how this all happened. The rest of the comic is basically an exposition dump, and it doesn't come off as very natural. They throw a lot of information at us, and the pacing could be better. It started when she was visiting a Kree refugee camp in New York. Their home planet of Hala was destroyed, and most other planets aren't willing to accept them as refugees because of their history, which mostly includes war and conquering and expanding their empire. So apparently they're all coming to Earth, with 9 camps already set up across the United States. Carol asks how she can help, but then the very next page is her flying off upset that she can't just punch this problem away, since problems you can punch are so much easier to handle, which was kind of strange, and makes the comic feel disjointed. And while it's nice to see Carol trying to help these people, I don't think she's really going about it in the right way. Carol seems pretty focused on punching things, but a hero needs to be strategic in how they handle their problems. It's not all about fighting, but I guess that's something Carol really needs to work on. When it comes to Captain Marvel, they're usually focusing on her strengths instead of her wits, going on about how she's the strongest Avenger and Earth's mightiest hero, but this is a great opportunity for her to problem solve without having to use physical force. I'm sure they can find an uninhabited planet to put the Kree on, that way they can rebuild their another society, and Carol could put her efforts into doing that, along with gathering resources to help them. But then she randomly gets attacked by this black ooze, and it's not a symbiote, it's from Vox Supreme. But it knocks her out, and when she wakes up she's on the dark side of the moon and Vox Supreme is there, and they finally give us the rundown on this guy. I don't see why they couldn't have put it in the last issue when they actually introduced him, but I digress. Vox put her in this suit that controls her and also makes it that she can't harm him while she's wearing it, and she can't take it off. Carol refuses to do his bidding, so he shows her the Kree refugee camp she went to in New York that day, and then destroys it to show that he means business. And he threatens to destroy the other Kree refugee camps unless she does what he wants, which is kill the Avengers. So she sulks for a while in space trying to figure out what to do. It doesn't explain his motivations though. Is there a specific reason why he's attacking the Kree? Maybe they explain it in the Inhumans book, but I don't think we should have to read another series to get the context for this story. Eventually she gets an idea and she goes to what looks like an abandoned SHIELD base. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we're seeing this, but Carol talks about it like she knows the place. She thinks to herself about how she wanted this place destroyed as soon as she found out about it, but since it hasn't been destroyed, it might be of use to her now. Apparently, someone's been cloning the Avengers, so the theory about that Thor head was true. It wasn't the real Thor. Convenient that there's just these clones of the Avengers lying around. Carol basically agrees that it's convenient, but she does think that whoever idea this was originally should be fired into the sun. But this is a SHIELD base. The wall says SHIELD Project Gemini. That's where the comic ends. It never goes back to them inside Singularity, so it's almost like she was telling the readers this and not the in-universe characters. This is a lot of exposition for readers to process, and none of this is really connecting to what we already learned from the previous 12 issues. I don't see why they needed to bring in Vox Supreme. They already had a setup with Star and the Reality Stone. Couldn't Star have just used the Reality Stone to get Carol to fight the Avengers? I understand that Marvel Comics exists in a shared universe, and because of that there's going to be crossovers, but having him just show up in this book is really awkward, especially when it felt like they were already setting up a different villain. Sure, Star's characterization wasn't great, but at least it was something. It's definitely more than Vox got. This isn't making us want to catch up on the Inhumans books we missed, which I assume is the real reason Vox is here. This whole book felt awkward. The first half was a fight that we weren't invested in, because we know that there's no stakes. Tony and Carol are both going to be fine. And then the second half of this book was an exposition dump. We get a lot of new information. These refugee camps, Vox randomly showing up and kidnapping Carol, and then there's the clone thing. This Tony is actually a clone himself, because Carol kinda killed him back in Civil War II. Way to go, Carol. This makes her being so flippant with Tony so much worse. And this book tried to convince us so hard that they actually do care about each other. It also really undermines this whole story arc. Why should we be concerned about Carol being forced to kill all the Avengers? She's already killed Tony in the past. If Tony can be replaced with a clone, I'm sure everyone else can too. Even Carol herself. Just saying. Also, if Vox can monitor her through the suit, how does he not know about this clone project? We think this comic would benefit if they would consider how things are set up, and the overall flow of the narrative. But that's our review. What did you guys think? We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to this channel to see more content like this. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.